The invisible trillionaires. There are billionaires, and then there are ghosts. You know the names that dominate headlines: the tech titans, the oil magnates, the hedge fund kings who flaunt their wealth in skyscrapers and space rockets. Their fortunes are tracked in real time. Their net worth fluctuates by the hour. They trend on social media. They testify before Congress. But what if the most powerful family on earth doesn't appear on any rich list at all? What if the true architects of global finance don't need publicity because they built the system itself? For over 2 centuries, a single surname has whispered through the corridors of power, a name that surfaces in revolutions, resurfaces in wars, and reappears whenever empires rise or fall: Rothschild. To some, they are master bankers. To others, they are shadow rulers. To critics, they are symbols of everything opaque and untouchable about global finance. To historians, they are perhaps the most successful financial dynasty the world has ever known. But here's the real question. How does one family survive revolutions, world wars, depressions, confiscations, assassinations, and regime changes and still remain relevant? How do they finance kings, outlast kings, and quietly lend to the very governments that regulate them? This is not the story of a billionaire. This is the story of a bloodline, a dynasty born in a cramped ghetto alleyway that would eventually hold sovereign debt for nations across Europe, a family that turned information into power, speed into leverage, and secrecy into survival. They rarely give interviews, they rarely appear in public, and yet their banks, their trusts, their foundations, and their influence echo through every major financial center on earth: London, Paris, Vienna, Frankfurt, New York. You won't see their faces on magazine covers, but you will find their fingerprints on the architecture of modern capitalism. Are they trillionaires? The true number is unknowable. Their wealth is fragmented across private holdings, trusts, vineyards, energy companies, mining interests, and global advisory firms. But here is what we do know. When governments needed gold to fund wars, they turned to the Rothschilds. When railways carved through continents, Rothschild capital flowed beneath the tracks. When monarchies teetered, Rothschild loans stabilized crowns. And when markets panicked, they often emerged stronger. Coincidence or design? Tonight we trace the bloodline from a red shield hanging above a small house in Frankfurt to the boardrooms of the modern financial world. This is the story of the Rothschild dynasty. And whether you believe they control the world or simply mastered it before anyone else, one fact remains: they were there first, and they never truly left. Chapter 2. The Frankfurt Ghetto. To understand the empire, you have to return to the alley. Frankfurt, mid-18th century, not the gleaming financial capital you see today, but a cramped, walled ghetto known as the Judengasse. Jews were confined there by law, gates locked at night, overcrowded, restricted professions, limited rights. It was here, in 1744, that Mayer Amschel was born. His family home bore a symbol on its facade, a red shield. In German, Rothschild. That shield would become a name, and that name would become a dynasty. Mayer Amschel Rothschild was not born into luxury. His father was a modest coin dealer and money changer. Young Mayer learned the trade early, studying rare coins, currency exchange, and the mechanics of finance. But he also learned something more valuable: access. Frankfurt was home to princely courts, and Mayer understood that proximity to power was worth more than gold itself. After being orphaned as a teenager, he returned to Frankfurt, determined to expand the family's modest operation. He began trading rare coins with aristocrats, not just as a merchant, but as a trusted intermediary. One client changed everything: Crown Prince Wilhelm of Hesse. Wilhelm was one of the wealthiest men in Europe, and he needed someone discreet, someone reliable, someone who understood both currency and confidentiality. Mayer became that man. Soon he wasn't just trading coins. He was managing funds, handling international transfers, navigating complex political risks across fragmented German states. But here's what made Mayer different from other money changers. He didn't just think locally. He thought generationally. He had 5 sons, and he had a plan. In an era when most businesses died with their founder, Mayer engineered something radical, a financial network that would stretch across borders, controlled by blood, bound by trust. He taught his sons discipline. He taught them secrecy. He taught them loyalty to the family above all else. And he taught them one principle that would define the dynasty: information is power. In the 1700s, news traveled slowly, weeks, sometimes months. But if you knew what was happening before others did, if you knew who was winning wars, who was losing power, which currencies were collapsing, you could profit immensely. Mayer didn't just build a bank. He built an intelligence network disguised as a banking family. And from the narrow streets of the Frankfurt ghetto, the red shield began expanding. Chapter 3. The 5 Arrows. The Rothschild coat of arms features 5 arrows. Each arrow represents a sun. Each sun represents a city. And each city became a financial stronghold. Amschel remained in Frankfurt. Salomon went to Vienna. Nathan went to London. Karl went to Naples. James went to Paris. This was not random expansion. It was strategic domination. Europe in the early 19th century was a battlefield. The Napoleonic Wars were redrawing borders. Kingdoms were collapsing. Armies required funding. Governments were desperate for liquidity. And the Rothschild brothers were perfectly positioned. While others relied on slow diplomatic channels, the Rothschild network used private couriers, riders, ships, encrypted correspondence. Information moved faster through their family system than through many governments. Imagine 5 brothers in 5 capitals, coordinating capital flows across borders in real time. If Vienna needed funds from London, they made it happen. If Paris required gold transfers through Frankfurt, they executed it. They weren't just bankers. They were the bloodstream of European finance. But one brother would become the most formidable of them all: Nathan Mayer Rothschild in London. At the time, London was rising as the epicenter of global trade. The British Empire was expanding, the Bank of England was powerful, and the London Stock Exchange was becoming the heart of modern capital markets. Nathan saw the opportunity. He didn't just enter British finance, he infiltrated it. And then came Waterloo. Chapter 4. The Waterloo Scam. June 18, 1815. The Battle of Waterloo. Napoleon Bonaparte versus the Duke of Wellington. The outcome would reshape Europe, but in London, investors waited anxiously for news. The fate of Britain's economy hung in the balance. If Napoleon won, markets would crash. Nathan Rothschild had something no one else had: speed. Through an intricate network of couriers, Nathan reportedly learned of Wellington's victory before the official government dispatch arrived. And here's where legend meets strategy. According to one enduring account, Nathan walked onto the floor of the London Stock Exchange and began selling British government bonds. Other investors saw this. Panic spread. If Rothschild was selling, Britain must have lost. Prices plummeted. And then, through agents, Nathan allegedly began buying. Quietly, aggressively. When official news arrived confirming victory, the market rebounded sharply. Nathan's position exploded in value. Some historians debate the details. Was it as dramatic as legend suggests? Did he truly engineer a crash? What is undeniable is this: by the end of the Napoleonic Wars, the Rothschilds were among the most powerful financial players in Europe. Whether myth or masterstroke, Waterloo cemented Nathan's dominance in London. He didn't just make money, he made reputation. Governments understood something after Waterloo. The Rothschilds were faster, and in finance, faster means richer. Chapter 5. Financing empires. Wars are expensive. Empires are more expensive. Empires are more expensive. Throughout the 19th century, the Rothschild family became synonymous with sovereign lending. They financed governments, underwrote massive bond issuances, and facilitated gold transfers across continents. They helped stabilize post-war economies. They financed railways that stitched together industrial Europe. They backed mining operations. They supported infrastructure projects that powered the Industrial Revolution. When Britain sought to purchase shares in the Suez Canal in 1875, it was Rothschild capital that enabled the rapid transaction. Within days, millions were raised. the British government secured strategic control of a global trade artery, speed, again. They weren't just funding projects, they were shaping geopolitics. Their influence extended into Austria-Hungary, France, Italy, even parts of South America, but they operated differently from modern conglomerates. Each branch maintained autonomy. Each brother built local relationships, yet they coordinated when necessary. This decentralized structure protected them. If one branch faced political turmoil, others survived. When revolutions swept Europe in 1848, many aristocratic fortunes evaporated. The Rothschilds adapted. They shifted capital, diversified holdings, balanced risk across nations. They understood something fundamental. Governments change, debt remains, and those who manage the debt endure. Chapter 6. The Federal Reserve Connection. Fast forward to the early 20th century. America is rising. Industrial magnates dominate headlines. Rockefeller, Morgan, Carnegie. But behind the scenes, European banking houses still wield enormous influence over global capital flows. In 1913, the Federal Reserve System was created. Conspiracy theories often tie the Rothschild name to its formation. Whispers of secret meetings, claims of hidden ownership, allegations of unseen control. Here's what history clearly shows. The Rothschilds had long-standing relationships with major American financial institutions. European capital flowed into U.S. corre, railways and infrastructure throughout the 19th century. Bonds were issued in London to fund American expansion. But direct control of the Federal Reserve? That claim remains unproven and heavily debated, yet the myth persists. Why? Because the Rothschild name became shorthand for financial power itself. When systems are complex and opaque, people search for a central figure. The Rothschilds by then were the ultimate symbol. They had survived monarchies. They had survived revolutions. They had survived 2 centuries of political upheaval. So naturally, many assumed they must sit at the center of modern finance. Whether exaggerated or not, one truth remains. They helped design the blueprint for international banking long before America dominated it. And their methods, sovereign bonds, cross-border networks, private capital alliances, became foundational pillars of global finance. Chapter 7. Secrecy and Philanthropy. If the 19th century was about expansion, the 20th century was about discretion. World wars devastated Europe. Nazi Germany seized Rothschild assets in Austria. Family members fled. Some branches lost immense wealth, yet the dynasty endured. Post-war they restructured, diversified into energy, mining, wine estates, asset management, and advisory services, but they also mastered invisibility. Many Rothschild holdings became private. Family trusts shielded assets. Foundations handled philanthropic initiatives. Hospitals, universities, arts institutions, scientific research. The Rothschild name appears on charitable plaques across Europe and Israel. Philanthropy served multiple purposes. Genuine contributions certainly, but also reputation management. In a world increasingly hostile to concentrated wealth, discretion became survival strategy. Unlike flashy billionaires of the modern era, the Rothschilds avoided spectacle. No social media empires, no public net worth trackers, just quiet influence and privacy. Is that secrecy suspicious or simply smart? Chapter 8. The Modern Puppet Masters. So here we are, 2.5 centuries after a red shield hung in a Frankfurt alley. Do the Rothschilds control the world? The honest answer: not in the way conspiracy theories suggest. They do not sit in a single room dictating global events. They do not secretly own every central bank. But influence does not require domination. Today, the Rothschild family's various branches operate in investment banking, wealth management, private equity, agriculture, energy, and advisory roles. Rothschild & Co. advises governments and corporations on mergers, acquisitions, and restructuring. Their wine estates produce some of the world's most valuable vintages. Their philanthropic foundations continue funding research and education. They are no longer the only financial dynasty, but they remain one of the longest surviving. And survival at that scale is power in itself, because true power isn't loud. It doesn't tweet, it doesn't boast, it builds systems, it embeds within institutions, it thinks in centuries. The Rothschilds mastered one principle above all: stay indispensable, but stay unseen. From the Judengas to global finance, from coin dealing to sovereign bonds, from 5 arrows to a worldwide network. They didn't conquer nations, they financed them, and in doing so, they secured something more durable than crowns or armies: continuity. So the next time markets crash or governments scramble for funding, ask yourself, who stands behind the curtain of capital? The faces may change, the headlines may shift, but some names echo longer than others. Rothschild, not because they shout the loudest, but because they understood, before anyone else, that money is not just currency, it is leverage, it is information, it is influence, and when managed across generations, it becomes dynasty.